10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Royal Rumble. We all love it. Starting back in 1988 on the USA Network, not to counteract Bunkhouse Stampede. That show didn't need any goddamn help. It was pounded in the goddamn ground thanks to Jim Crockett Jr.'s incompetence. That's not what I'm here to talk about, though. I'm here to talk about the famous, and at times infamous, Royal Rumble. Taken from Roy Shire by Pat Patterson, tweaked a little bit, and involving many, many men, and then eventually women. The Royal Rumble, honestly, is my favorite match concept. Forget the Battle Royal, even though it is just a juiced-up Battle Royal. You start off with one man, and every 2 minutes thereafter, and then in some instances, you would have 60 seconds for 1995, you had 90 seconds, whatever. The whole point is 1 to 20 for 1988, but then 1 to 30 for 89 through 2010, and then, of course, we went to 40 for 2011, and then we went to 50 for the greatest Royal Rumble that actually doesn't fucking count. But anyway, nevertheless, the whole thing is the Royal Rumble. We all love it. Even if we hate the Rumble by the end of it, we love the idea. The pageantry, the pomp and circus pants. What man will enter one? What woman will enter one? What man will enter last? What woman will enter last? What man will enter what woman last? But the whole point is, like running a goddamn train like it's sunny in the locker room. The whole point is, the Royal Rumble is absolutely tremendous. And the drama, the insanity, who could be the surprises? Who doesn't love a great Royal Rumble? And who doesn't love a great goddamn finale to a Royal Rumble? Throughout the years, there have been many moments where we get down to the titty gritty and we see who's going to win this whole goddamn thing. Will it be the person that's been in the longest, the person that's been in the shortest? What's going to goddamn happen? Well, that's what I'm here to talk about. The best finales and ones that I really liked, but I still want to know what you guys have to say. So let's get to it. I'm John Rentham with the 10 best Royal Rumble finales ever. Let me know your comments or your thoughts in the comments, and let me know what you think of these honorable mentions, because that's what I'm going to start with here. But before that, basically, I decided to just write down the final 4 and talk about a few, things going on in these Rumbles. And yes, it is obviously going to be a varied list, and there are ones that I left off, not that they weren't really good. There are great moments. There are Rumbles, by the way, that are going to be mentioned here that maybe weren't exactly the absolute fucking best, but they did have great finales, in my personal opinion. So, yeah, that's really all I got to say right there. So let's get to the honorable mentions with the 2020 Men's Royal Rumble, where the Bork laser destroyed everybody for half of it. And then, why you bald Ricochet, nutshot him, and Drew McIntyre said, I'm going to take you out with the first move. And he did. And then we got Edge's return after nearly 9 years with a neck injury. And then, don't worry, he's been doing things since to diminish crowds, but nevertheless, the whole thing is, all that stuff, Randy Orton in the ring, Roman Reigns, but Drew McIntyre would end up winning. But we had Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, Edge, and Orton as the final 4. And we had a lot of great drama in this, but it built and built. Would they finally go with Drew McIntyre? They did. It was a hell of a goddamn moment. What a tremendous finish to that Rumble. Yeah, it got a little bit annoying with Brock doing what he did, but in hindsight, rewatching it, it does make sense. Frustrating at the time, but does make sense why they went that route. The 2008 Men's Rumble. We had John Cena, Triple H, Batista, and Kane. And, of course, at number 30, to the big shock of absolutely everybody, Madison Square Garden, and everybody watching at home, myself included, John Cena came back after a torn pec. Either they decided to play it up, or he has superhuman stuff that he could, take to get back. I'm sorry, I wouldn't imply that. Nevertheless, maybe he just has really good recuperative powers, and maybe I'm going to pull millions of dollars out of my ass. So the whole thing is you have those final 4. It's weird that Kane was there, but nevertheless we have Batista. It makes sense why Batista would be in the final 4 here. But Triple H and Cena, came down to them, and John Cena would win. Big goddamn moment, though. A Rumble that's varied. It did start with Shawn and Taker, who finished the previous years. Don't worry, I'm going to get to that one at some point. But great stuff as far as just the build and everything, and a great Final Four. We go to the 2001 Rumble. Hey, Kier, who didn't win the 2001 Rumble? You know who didn't win the Rumble. Poor Kier. I like Kier. But Kier knows why I'm mentioning him here. Because we had Stone Cold, Kane, The Rock, and Billy Gunn. Yes, Billy Gunn was in the Final Four of this Rumble. They really tried to push Billy Gunn as a singles wrestler. Billy Gunn, very good. Still able to go in the ring, despite the fact that the man is in his early 60s. But Kane ended up entering at like number, I think, 6? And he ended up going the whole goddamn distance. Well, almost. Isn't that right? Kier. Poor Kier. Such a nice guy. But The Rock was there. The Rock, it's just so funny. The Big Show makes his return. We get this stuff, we get Big Show just laying out everybody, eliminating a couple people. I think he eliminated R-Truth or Ron Killings. And then Rock comes out and eliminates him. And then Rock gets chokeslammed through the announcer's table. Triple H does end up attacking Stone Cold because Stone Cold stopped Triple H from beating Kurt Angle a little bit later, or a little bit earlier on. Would have been hard for him to stop him before he faced him, but that's just how the time machine and my warp mind works. But yeah, Stone Cold got busted open, and Stone Cold would end up basically, getting Kane, hitting him repeatedly with a chair, and tossing him over the top. Don't worry, Kane will eventually win a Rumble. If you fantasy book it, Kier. Again, Kier, nice guy. Stone Cold won the Rumble. Hell of a goddamn finish. And then the 2018 Men's Rumble. We have Shinsuke Nakamura, Roman Reigns, John Cena, and Finn Balor. I forgot that Finn was in the Final Four. The Final Four, as it were. Missed an opportunity there. And great stuff. The fact that Nakamura was able to survive those two and Finn, all due respect. Finn's a great talent, but Finn by that point was just going to be seen as a guy on the card. And eventually, he would end up eliminating Roman, eliminating Cena, and would go on to not beat AJ Styles at WrestleMania 34. Anyway, let's get to the top 10. So, 2005. 2005 Rumble was a little bit weird in the sense that there were some great moments, and there were... there was a bit of a weird flow to it, though. Like, it flowed better than it flowed better in the 2006 one, I'll say that much. It flowed way better than the 2003 one. But this basically had a nice build. You had Edge and Ray, Edge in particular, who was there for a bit, but you had Edge and Ray. You had Cena come down, and you also had Batista. Batista, fun fact, actually won the Rumble from the same position both times, number 28. And the thing is really, you couldn't have gone wrong with any of these three. You could have gone wrong with Ray. Ray, still over at this point. I mean, still is now. And yes, he won the world title the next year. I mean, it was in memory of Eddie, and the crowd was starting to boo because they didn't really buy into it. That being said, Edge had come back from his neck injury, but was basically heel. There was a lot of really good stuff here. I really enjoyed what they provide. Edge was trying to be sneaky, sneaky, shiny teeth Edge, where he was Adam Copeland wasn't the Cope. But it came down to Batista and Cena. I still can't believe that this finish actually wasn't planned this way, because Batista picks up Cena. It's like he's going to do a Batista bomb thing. And whatever, the whole thing is Cena and Batista end up tumbling over the top, and they hit the floor at the same time. Unplanned. You couldn't have planned that better. Especially since they did it in 1994. More on that in a bit. And that didn't work as well as they thought. But that was perfect. And then Vince came out and tore both his quads, which was funny. Especially knowing what, the dirty pervert actually was up to at that point and what he had been up to since. But that being said, Batista and Cena, it was supposed to be Batista winning. Batista, after the match got restarted, Batista did toss Cena out. And yeah, maybe a controversial entry. I could have probably flip-flopped this with one of the honorable mentions. But I had to put it here because it is memorable, and it's a big deal because the final two would end up actually, winning titles at WrestleMania. You could argue that Cena had the better run. Batista may have been more over, but after that feud with Triple H, look at what Batista did. At least with Cena, but it's fine. It's fine. It is what it is. A really good moment though. Batista getting the victory there. Man, what a finish. 1994 is at number 9. We had Bret Hart, Lex Luger, Shawn Michaels, and Fatu. Yes, Fatu was in the final 4. He did it for The Rock. He did it for you people. What do you mean, you people? So, there was no doubt how this was going to come down, or what this is going to go down to. Now, Shawn, in all his glorious mulleted gloriousness, which is really redundant, and Fatu was also there. Fatu and Bret Hart actually had a pretty good match on a Raw, just, I think, a little bit before WrestleMania 9 the year before. And hooray, WrestleMania 9. Shawn had come back from, his suspension, because clearly those were the only drugs that he was on. It was just stuff, it's just a little bit of steroid stuff that he got popped for. It wasn't any of the other shit he was taking. Whole point is, this is going to come down to Bret and Luger, because Vince was still very determined to extend the chase and make it to where Luger could be crowned at Mania. And he probably should have just had him crowned at SummerSlam. He should have had Yoko walk out as champion. Should have had Yoko squash Hogan at King of the Ring 93 to retain it. And then we could have had Yoko get beat. And we could have done something where Lex could have lost it. I don't know, Survivor Series, we could have done something. The whole point is now they're in this quagmire, giggity, and it came down to Bret and Luger, and basically Bret and Luger would end up tumbling over the top to the floor. The reason I put this up above 2005 is, one, no torn quads, but also they tried to really make it where Lex is going to get cheered. The winner is Lex Luger. Boo. Wasn't a very favorable reaction. The winner is Bret Hart. Yay! The fact that it took Vince to realize that Bret was a guy that they were going to choose, not exactly great. That being said, 1994, very memorable and a very good finish. So, we go to number 8. The women get on the board here. The women top the men. And given a couple of the women here in this, never mind. It's fine. It's fine. Respect. Kinda. The 2023 Women's Royal Rumble. Rhea Bloody Ripley at number 1. Liv at number 2. So, yeah, Rhea topped Liv. How'd that taste, Kier? How'd that taste? Liv did a great job, though, topping Rhea multiple times. You know what? I'm just going to be respectful here because you need to stop thinking about it, Kier. Stop. Poor Kier. God damn it, Kier. Why do you make me do this? He doesn't, but I just want to have some fun. Actually, I haven't done this for a while. I decided because Liv is featured maybe once or twice on this list. I figured I'd decide to do that. So yeah, Kier, great guy, but stop thinking about it. So, Asuka and Nikki Cross is in the final 4. God, Jesus, they were really fucking dry with this shit. Where Nikki genuinely seems nice and actually is a decent enough performer. I forget that she's part of the roster, but this is pretty good. This is actually a pretty good finish, at least all things considered. They were tweaking the women properly here. They were watching the women tweak, the formula. The women were tweaked. The whole point is there was a lot of tweakage going on with the Women's Rumble. So I'm going to dig myself out of this one way or another. It was Rhea, Liv, Asuka, and Nikki, and Rhea would end up getting the victory. But you know what? Liv had a great goddamn showing here. Because Liv really did show that she was arrived. She had arrived. When I first saw Liv, admittedly, I've said this before in other videos, I wrote her off, blew her off as another bottle blonde. She proved me wrong. Really excelled, has been doing some of the best work of her career the past couple years. So you know what? Good on her. Regained the victory, but Liv lasting a long time as well. It makes sense that she would make it to the final 4. So, good stuff though. And Rhea would end up regaining the victory, was the right call. So we go number 7, 1995. Arguably one of the weakest Rumbles. I mean, they had Dick fucking Murdoch in this. They had various others. Just a lot of it was a mess. It really was a mess. And yeah, the 60-second intervals didn't help. The fact that this is just rushed. It was a really short entranceway, too. I mean, I don't need long entranceways, but it's like, oh, let's run out there. And like anybody could take like 5 steps and realize, shit, we're already almost at the ring. But Shawn Michaels and the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith, who had returned in the last few months after a WCW run, after knocking himself out on the steps, trying to chase Owen Hart's around the ring, chasing the Hart around the ring, chasing a lot of the Harts. Chase Bruce Hart. Should have chased Bruce Hart, to a hairstylist. Whole point, Shawn, Davey, 1 and 2. And it was not, that was actually pretty good. It's a shame that we didn't go at least 90 seconds with this one. 90-second intervals. Because then it would have actually meant something. Because we had 90-second intervals from 1994. We had some good stuff. But Crush and Luger would be the last two. The last two along with those guys. So we have that final 4. Math is not making a whole lot of sense here so far. But the biggest reason as to why I put this here. 1, Luger didn't win it. Hooray. Crush didn't win it. Bigger hooray. And they did the whole thing where Davey was announced, and then the referees informed me that only one of Shawn Michaels' feet touched the floor. And it was great stuff, and then Shawn would go on to basically sandbag Diesel because he wanted Diesel's spot. And then he melted under the pressure after he, won the Iron Man match, and the boyhood dream came true. But 1995 was a big goddamn deal, hell of a finish. Yeah, excuse me. Not exactly the most memorable Rumble when you take a look at the lineup and everything. But for wire-to-wire stuff, it was good. I still just think it's so funny that they make it like, oh, Shawn lasted like all this time. There were people who didn't win the goddamn Rumble. Greg Valentine and Rick Martel lasted longer in the 91 Rumbles than Shawn lasted here, and they didn't win the thing. Ric Flair won the Rumble and lasted just over an hour. Granted, we were still in the infancy, but there were other people that lasted longer. Like Ted DiBiase lasted like 44 minutes. I think it was like 6 or 8 minutes longer than Shawn ended up lasting. Nevertheless, still pretty good finish. We go to number 6, the 2024 Women's Royal Rumble. And we had Bayley, we had Liv Morgan, we had Jade in her debut, and Tiffany. And actually, pretty good stuff. I mean, okay, they were still trying to figure out what to do with Tiffany. Tiffany was going to need just a little more seasoning. But she was going to be on the main roster pretty soon. Jade making her debut. I have no doubt she'll show back up at the Rumble here in just a little bit because I'm recording this a few days before the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis. And Liv, once again, having a shining moment, doing some good stuff. But Bayley winning the Royal Rumble, it was the right call. Bayley getting a chance to have revenge on Damage Control for what they did to her. Even though it'd be a little bit before we found that, it was at least a nice little bit, and this was good stuff. Bayley should have won this, did. Liv would get her moment, especially topping Rhea. Once again, Kier, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Stop thinking about it. So, again, poor Kier. Really good guy. Really, really good guy. Genuinely nice guy. Would probably hurl me in the East River if he could for all these comments. But nevertheless, we go to number 5. We go to the Women's Royal Rumble. Yeah, the women are getting a whole lot of love here. Never mind. Moving on. We have the 2019 Women's Royal Rumble, which Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Nia Jax, and Bayley. That's right. Something Nia Jax was near the end of, I'm actually praising. Not because of Nia Jax. That bloated series of couch cushions. Human centipede together. But for the fact that they basically had it with Becky getting her way into the Rumble, which, yes, was a little bit convoluted. Probably shouldn't have been that convoluted. But that being said, the crowd would have, maybe not rioted, but they would have been pretty pissed if Becky hadn't gotten a chance to win the Rumble. Because we all knew she was going to. We had her and Asuka earlier in the night. We had that change. And then we had Becky basically finding her way into this Rumble. Charlotte had done well in this as well. So would Bayley. But Becky would end up getting the victory and would end up getting a big old pop. And then they screwed up the women main eventing WrestleMania. I have a feeling outside of Bianca and Sasha that is probably going to be the only time we see that. Which is a shame, because I like to see Rhea main event. I mean, there are plenty of women that are capable of main eventing. Just the problem is, it's still a male-dominated business, much as we don't want to admit it. I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying that's how it's viewed. But Becky did get the victory. It was a big moment. Even if it was a little bit messy, I'm still going to give it to it for the moment. And we finish up the women's portion of this, just so you know. For those of you that are women's wrestling fans, you can tune out after this. Number 4, the 2021 Women's Royal Rumble. Yes, the only Rumble to take place in front of no people. And I do remember this actually being pretty good because you have Bianca, Rhea, Charlotte, and Natalya. And this is leagues better than the Men's Rumble. One, we didn't have Edge taken out for a bit. We didn't have this... We didn't have a Rumble that kind of dragged. I mean, there were moments that were okay, but they're like, oh, he lasted over an hour. He was out for a bit of it. I mean, it is what it is. But Bianca and Rhea had a great closing moment, had a great, closing exchange there. Charlotte performing well because Charlotte is a natural athlete. I just don't want to see her anymore because I'm bored with her character. But Natalya, very skilled. I'm so glad that Natalya's going to get a chance to finish her in-ring career in WWE. Because I don't know she's got all that much longer. But this was a great Final Four. Veterans, up-and-comers, Bianca getting the victory. It was a big moment. Her and Sasha would go on the main event. I believe night 1 of WrestleMania 37. It was a big fucking goddamn deal. That was really cool. And even though it was in front of no people, the women worked their asses off. This is well paced. Had a couple flummoxes, but compared to the Men's Rumble, this was leagues better. Now we go to number 3, 1997 in the Alamo Dome, where they decided to get a bunch of AAA people there. And Mil Mascara says, "You're not going to job me out. I'll job myself out." He literally cross-bodied over the top to eliminate himself. He thought that would actually save face. It just made him look like an idiot. The man of 1,000, ways to not job out to somebody. So, we had, and by the way, I'm actually going with a final 5 here. While Mick Foley, while Mankind and Terry Funk were fighting, we did have Stone Cold, Bret Hart, Fake Diesel, Glenn Jacobs, a.k.a. the future Kane, Undertaker, and Vader. Undertaker and Vader had an earlier match, and a lot of, there's a lot of drama here. We wouldn't know about the Undertaker-Kane drama because Kane hadn't been thought of, even though Kane, the Undertaker, was actually the Undertaker's original name. No, really, they actually called him Kane the Undertaker. It was very early on before he even made his pay-per-view debut, before he even made a televised debut. We just got dark match footage. But Stone Cold and Bret had that incredible match at Survivor Series 96. And, yeah, Fake Diesel was also there. The fake Razor got tossed out. Rick Bogner, may he rest in peace. Apparently he was a nice guy, he just never got his chance on a big stage with a good gimmick. But Bret Hart was able to toss out Stone Cold. However, because Mankind and Terry Funk were fighting, we had Fake Diesel, we had Undertaker and Vader, we had Bret in there. And the idea is, oh no, Fake Diesel got tossed. Vader and Taker got tossed. And then Bret got tossed by Stone Cold because the refs didn't see it. And Vince was like, oh no. And Stone Cold won. Now that was a big moment. It was actually a pretty fun Rumble overall, even if it was a little bit messy. And the AAA guys didn't really add anything, all due respect. But it was cool that Stone Cold got the victory here. It just kind of got nullified after they had to pivot because, well, Bret didn't win, and then Shawn would end up losing his smile. Because he was admittedly at that point not in a very good place. And then he gave up drugs for another addiction, but I digress. Stone Cold winning was a big fucking deal. It just didn't end up going as much of anywhere as they would have thought because they had to pivot. But at least then it would lead to Stone Cold winning the next Rumble in 98 and then winning the 2001 Rumble. I would argue he should have won the 99 Rumble because doing that whole thing just for a goddamn angle was terrible. The 99 Rumble is one of the worst in my personal opinion. I don't know if it's the worst now that I think about it. I think the 2022 Men's Rumble might actually be worse. But nevertheless, the 1997 one in the Alamo Dome, great finish. Now we go to 2007. We have Edge, we have Orton, we have The Undertaker, and we have Shawn Michaels. Raid RKO, DX is out of the picture. Well, Shawn is still there, but Triple H blew out his quad, as he's known to do. And so you have Raid RKO here, and there's history. You have Edge, who'd had matches with Shawn. Undertaker, who had matches with Shawn. Orton, who had matches with The Undertaker. And Edge and Orton had even faced off, like in 2004 for the Intercontinental title. So there's a lot of intermingling here. And it was a big fucking deal. I would argue that once Orton and, Edge got eliminated, we got basically kind of a recreation of the 1994 moment, but except these guys got to go a whole lot longer. We had these two top stars. Undertaker and Shawn had a great, mini match, shall we say. A tease of what we would see at Reliance Stadium in Houston for Mania 25. I think it was Reliance Stadium, am I right? We got to see Shawn and Taker do, we got to see them do big moves. We got to see them have, a good, amount of action. Arguably, I would say this is the best final two of any WrestleMania, any Royal Rumble. But it's great stuff, magnificent, so well done. Undertaker would eventually end up winning. Shawn would find his way to face John Cena because Triple H got injured, so they couldn't have any more Raid RKO DX matches. And then by the time Triple H returned, he just destroyed Booker T or King Booker, and then he was out of the company for a few years. Hooray! Triple H holding Booker T down again. He didn't do that, no, except he did. Whole thing is, 2007 Rumble, absolutely tremendous. And of course, number one is obviously the 1990 Rumble where Hogan tossed out Mr. Perfect. No, it's not that one. Of course, it's the 1989 Rumble where Big John Studd won the whole thing to the shock of everybody. No, I kid, of course. It is, whatever. It's Randy Savage covering Yokozuna in a Rumble match and getting tossed out over the top. No, in all seriousness, it's 2016 where Triple H returned and won the WWE title. I kid, this is a real one. It's 2015 where everybody rioted when Roman Reigns won. No, it's 1992. Of course it's 1992 at number one, because it would have to be 1992. Yes, you could argue that Undertaker and Shawn had the better match, and it was a bigger moment with the benefit, with like all the stuff that has happened. But to me, this could be nostalgia, this could be my own childhood. Ric Flair going basically wire to wire. He entered at number 3 and would win the whole goddamn thing. But you had Flair, you had Hogan, you had Sid, and you had Savage. Sid. Bless Sid. God, I love Sid. God, I miss Sid. God. Hogan is still around. And Randy Savage isn't. That's just not fair. Imagine if Randy Savage had been able to be on Raw, the Netflix one. He would have gotten cheered for he is Randy Savage. But basically, Sid and Savage were in the corner. Ric Flair does a knee. Savage tumbles to the outside. Rick and Savage would end up having a tremendous match at WrestleMania 8. And Sid would end up eliminating Hogan, fairly cheering. But then Hogan's like, you can't do that. No, brother. Doesn't look like he's pulling out his arm, but nevertheless, he pulls him. Flair dumps him out. Flair then says, with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment of my life. And that's a big goddamn deal. Of course, there is the aftermath also taking place in the ring, where Hogan's among a bunch of agents and everything, including Node Pest, Terry Garvin, where he's like doing this, and the crowd's booing. Yeah, they added it before, but now they've unedited it. And, Sid even points to the sign, Hulk who? Hulk who? But that's the greatest Rumble in history. I actually did a Redux review of that just recently. But I decided to do a lengthy top 10, talk about all this stuff. So I want to know your guys' thoughts in the comments, please. What is your, what are your 5 favorite, final moments in Rumble history? And what are your worst ones? Because honestly, I think 99's almost got to be it. 99, maybe 2009. Maybe 2011. That 2011 actually might be worse. They tried with Alberto Del Rio. And it didn't work, but of course we already knew that. So that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin, and I'll see you soon.